City Hall so many years ago, but his spirit, his resolve, lives on today. For those of you who are less familiar, Harvey Milk was the first openly gay politician in California and a leader in the American Civil Rights Movement. And so today we remember the life and legacy of Harvey Milk. And with that, we transition to your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And kicking us off, unfortunately, another episode of gun violence has struck again. The man who is accused of killing two Israeli embassy staffers in D.C. has been charged with murder of foreign officials. The Associated Press is reporting that the man that's accused of fatally shooting two staff members of the Israeli embassy right here in Washington, D.C., as they left an event at a Jewish museum, told police after his arrest, quotes, "I did it for Palestine. I did it for Gaza." That's what federal authorities said today when announcing these criminal charges. Elias Rodriguez, 31, shouted, quotes, "Free Palestine," as he was led away after his arrest, and told police that he was the one who, quotes, "did it," according to charging documents that provided chilling new details of last night's attack that killed an American woman and Israeli man who were set to become engaged. Authorities described the slaying as a targeted act of terror. In other news, on Capitol Hill, Trump got what he wished, at least from House Republicans. The question is, will Senate Republicans deliver against that wish? It's important for you to know what's in the Trump big tax bill. And we got just a few highlights for you. We'll be really sort of leaning into it over the course of the next week as we expect the U.S. Senate to have their own tweaks to this bill. But depending on how you look at it, as USA Today has reported, there's good news for the nation's wealthiest car buyers, parents, waiters, and waitresses in the legislation that passed the U.S. House early this morning. But there's bad news, again, depending on how you look at it, for people making less than $50,000, recipients of Medicaid and food stamps, and anyone still saddled with student loan debt. We certainly know about that challenge. But no one should take to the bank quite yet. The bill passed to enact President Trump's agenda still has a long road before becoming law. It will now go to the Senate. It's in the Senate where it may be changed and then voted on yet again before heading to the president's desk for signature. So we still have a long way to go. We will continue to unpack this in the days ahead. Speaker Johnson says he wants the bill on the president's desk by Memorial Day. Not sure if that's going to happen, but this bill is still moving pretty quickly. Finally, some very, very important news, not just for folks in California, but for folks that believe in environmental sustainability around the world. Speaking of the Senate, the U.S. Senate votes to overturn California's landmark ban on new gas-only car sales. The LA Times is reporting that the Republican-controlled U.S. Senate defied congressional norms and voted just yesterday to revoke California's progressive vehicle emission standards that would have effectively banned the sale of new gasoline-only cars by 2035. In a 51-44 vote, the Senate overturned a Biden-era waiver that enabled California and a contingent of Democrat-led states to enforce zero emissions requirements for sale of new passenger vehicles. After several hours of debate and testimony, legislators struck down a landmark regulation that aimed to drastically accelerate electric vehicle sales in California and nearly a dozen other states that chose to follow its lead. All of this would substantially reduce air pollution and global warming, particularly as it relates to carbon emissions from tailpipes. But the Republican-controlled Senate say, we don't want to have any part of this. None of this. We don't endorse this at all. You can expect this will be litigated, and so not sure if the U.S. Senate has the final word on this, but we will absolutely keep you posted. When we come forward, I'm really looking forward to digging through a lot of decisions coming from the federal courts today, not just the U.S. Supreme Court, but there was a federal judge that blocked a Trump administration action that touches each and every one of our lives, the Department of Education. We're going to talk about that and more with my guest, attorney, civil rights attorney, Terrence J. Evans, when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $200-$300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code PUSH to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code PUSH for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code PUSH for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Hit me! National News The Consequence. Informed opinion. And analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and really delighted to welcome back to the show our friend, Terrence J. Evans. He is the chair of the California Lawyers Association. He's also the regional director for the National Bar Association, specifically Region 9. And so we have the right one with us to really help us make it make sense. There were a lot of decisions that came down today from the federal courts, decisions that will no doubt impact our lives in one way or another, if not our lives, certainly our loved ones. And so let's get to it. Terrence, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And so just before we went on air, ABC News reporting that the Supreme Court lets Trump fire heads of the independent labor agencies for now. Now, for folks who may be less familiar, the Supreme Court's conservative majority today bolstered President Trump's bid to assume full control of the executive branch agencies, giving a green light for now to his removal, the heads of the National Labor Relations Board and the Merit System Protection Board, whom he fired without cause. Terrence, how is organized labor responding to this decision? And what does it mean for workers' rights in the United States?
So I think there's serious concern. What we have seen with this new administration is an attempt to expand executive power. Initially, that manifested itself with a series of executive orders that have gotten a significant amount of attention in the media, and then efforts by this administration to really test the system to see how far it can go and what it can get away with. And one of those examples is the administration's attempt to fire the heads of these independent agencies. It has long been established in the United States that these independent agencies could not be fired without cause. There's specific law that governs that, and the Trump administration decided to test this by firing these heads of these agencies without cause. This, of course, was challenged in the district court. It made its way up to the circuit court and eventually the Supreme Court. And what the administration is trying to do is to overturn the law that prevents them from firing the heads of these agencies without cause. Interestingly, the conservative majority in staying the preliminary injunction that prevented Trump from removing the heads of these agencies, distinguished this from the Federal Reserve. And I think they did that for two reasons. They noted that the quasi-business organization of the Federal Reserve, but also in an effort to not disturb the markets, because when there was conversation by the Trump administration that the president was considering removing Jerome Powell from his position as chair, the markets went a bit crazy. And so they wanted to reassure the markets that there wasn't likely going to be any authority that they would see to immediately remove anyone on the Federal Reserve Board.
Wow. And so if you are, leaders in the organized labor movement, and if you're on sort of a national conference call with other leaders in organized labor, what are y'all talking about right now?
Well, I think there's serious concern. And I think the midterm elections are going to take on even more significance, because the only, if you will, check there will be on any executive power will be Congress, not this Congress, which of course is controlled by the same party as the president. But the upcoming election will at least create an opportunity for Congress to take action to put a check on any power of the president to continue to expand his authority as the leader of the executive branch. But I think there's serious concern, because we know that this president is anti-labor even before he became president of the United States, in the way that he ran his business. And so I think labor union leaders and folks who are concerned about workers should be concerned and should be focused very carefully on the midterm elections.
Wow. I mean, the midterm elections, are some time away. They're over a year away. And I fear that for not just Democrats, but even Republicans that oppose the consolidation of power under the Trump administration, that, what state will our country be in over a year from now? What state will our country be in? How well will these institutions hold, waiting for the potential of a change in power after the next election?
Well, I think one thing that we've witnessed is that there were many folks who supported this administration in the early stages or in the last election that have now suffered adverse consequences as a result of the reduction of force in the federal government and a number of different actions this administration has taken on tariffs that have caused prices to rise for businesses, especially small businesses and retailers. So I think people are now awakening to what some of the consequences are of the policies of this administration that perhaps they didn't fully understand, that are now becoming more apparent.
Well, another decision that came down from the Supreme Court blocks Catholic charter schools, and it's a big setback for religion advocates. USA Today reporting that divided Supreme Court today blocked the creation of the nation's first religious charter school, a major loss for those advocating a greater role for religion in public life. The court split 4-4 over whether to allow St. Isidore of Seville virtual charter school, keeping in place the Oklahoma Supreme Court decision that a religious charter school would violate the Constitution's clause aimed at keeping religion separate from government. This is a rare one, because Justice Amy Coney Barrett didn't participate in the decision, which basically left the 9-member court evenly divided, and just a little bit of legal maneuver that I'm familiar with. In the event that there is a split decision on the U.S. Supreme Court, the lower court's decision stands. In this case, that was the Oklahoma Supreme Court. Did I get that right, Terrence?
You got it completely right. So because this was a split U.S. Supreme Court decision, there is no precedent set as a result of the court being evenly divided. What's interesting, also an interesting detail, is the Oklahoma Supreme Court is a conservative court. But they got it right in that they decided that there had to continue to be a separation between church and state. Now, Justice Amy Coney Barrett recused herself, and she didn't provide a detailed explanation, but the reporting is that she had a personal relationship with some of the parties who were involved in trying to establish this Catholic-based, publicly funded charter school. So what the reality is here is that another case can be brought that doesn't involve this particular school that she wouldn't have to recuse herself from. That could be decided very differently. So I think folks need to keep their eyes open and pay attention to this issue. I do not think that the advocates are going to give up anytime soon. And I think it is likely that they will find a new plaintiff to represent them on this cause, and they will try to bring it back to the Supreme Court in a manner that wouldn't result in Justice Barrett having to recuse herself. So I think the danger of the separation between church and state is real, and it could be something that could manifest itself in the very near future.
Now, part of what I was reading is that the Alliance Defending Freedom, which is a conservative legal advocacy group that defended the Oklahoma statewide charter school board's approval of St. Isidore, they called the court's deadlock disappointing. No surprises there. But they also said that the justices can revisit the issue in the future. Talk to us about what the religious liberty landscape looks like. And, if you were a betting man, what's the likelihood that we could see the separation between church and state blur in our lifetime?
Oh, I think it's very, very likely that we're going to see this not only in our lifetime, but in the very near future. One thing that I think we can say about the folks who have focused on this issue is that they're very strategic. So they're very strategic about finding plaintiffs who they think can help advance the cause and selecting jurisdictions and courts to litigate these cases in so that they can position it to reach the Supreme Court. So I think that there are likely going to be other potential plaintiffs already in their pipeline that they will use to bring this issue back to the court in a manner that wouldn't result in the type of recusal that we saw here.
Wow. So, just because Amy Coney Barrett recused herself in this case, it doesn't mean that, she's going to duck on religious liberty.
You're 100% correct. I agree completely.
Wow. Moving along, we know that the federal court, there was a federal court judge, not the Supreme Court, but a federal court judge blocked the Trump administration from attempting to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education. You just mentioned moments ago the number of federal workers who have been forced out of their jobs, folks who are mad as HE double hockey sticks, who may very well register that anger at the polls next November. But for now, a federal judge in Boston has blocked the Trump administration from attempting to dismantle the Department of Education. The U.S. District Judge issued a preliminary injunction today that bars the Trump administration from firing half of the Department of Education workforce. How real is this? And what material difference will this make in the lives of federal employees who were fired?
So I think it's important to keep in mind that this was just a district court that issued a preliminary injunction. So this administration, as it has with many of the other decisions that we have seen issued by other district courts challenging executive orders and other attempts by this administration to expand its executive power, will be able to appeal this decision to a circuit court and ultimately the Supreme Court. So this is only a temporary reprieve for workers who are impacted by the Trump administration's attempt to substantially reduce the workforce of the Department of Education in an attempt to essentially shut it down and divert a number of its activities to other offices, if you will, within the administration. It's well established, by the way, historically and as a matter of law that the president does not have the power to dismantle entire departments within the executive branch. Congress only has that authority. The president can remove certain executive officers, but this would be a substantial expansion of executive power. So I think that we're likely to see the Trump administration appeal this to the circuit court, and that likely will make its way to the U.S. Supreme Court, which will have the final say on this issue.
Now, part of what I've learned just sort of following, some of the issues around these mass firings is that when you look at statute, when a lot of these agencies were established, the statute says that there has to be a minimum number of employees, right? And in some cases, some of these agencies have less than a handful of sort of employees that are required by statute. Does that fact bode better for the Trump administration's point of view on executive power, or does that give members of Congress, does it give the Congress a leg to stand on to say, no, you're overreaching?
So in a different era, I would say that the fact that there is statutory language specifying that there has to be a minimum number of employees for these executive agencies would potentially bring comfort to the folks who are working in these agencies, or at least restrict the ability of the administration to move forward with these efforts to reduce the force. But what we have seen with the Supreme Court is that there isn't the same deference to precedent or established congressional actions or statutes. This court is willing to toss out precedent. This court is willing to declare established law as unconstitutional. And I think this administration sees that they have an opportunity with this particular Supreme Court as it is currently constructed to do that. And I think they're going to try it, and they very well may succeed because of the current composition of the court and the willingness of the court to essentially throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Now, I want to ask you about just sort of precedent, right? And just the sort of the state of play. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a part of what makes our legal system work, right? Sure. The fact that there are precedents, there are decisions that were made, and folks sort of agree, okay, like that's the way it's going to be, right? This is my shorthand as a non-lawyer, right? Precedent basically says, okay, it's been decided by the high court. That's the way we're going to operate, right? And then you have this administration that comes in and says, precedent doesn't matter. Precedent doesn't matter. If the Trump administration has its way, won't it essentially turn the U.S. legal system on its head?
Yes, and in many ways, the Supreme Court has already done that. So if we look, for example, at the Dobbs decision, where we saw a complete reversal of a half century of precedent that allowed women to make their own decisions about their reproductive health. If we look at the Supreme Court's rejection of Chevron deference, which had spawned more than 20,000 decisions across the United States that gave businesses reassurance about how certain administrative agencies would have authority to interpret law, we see that has already happened. And so what we see this administration doing with the support of this Supreme Court is continuing to turn, if you will, our legal system on its head and disrupting everything that we've known for, in some cases, generations. And I think that's really the point. They want to completely revamp the system and they want to remake it according to their own political philosophy. So it is disconcerting, but it is the new reality that we're living in. And I think we have to be very thoughtful about how we pursue these issues going forward.
And just to put a finer point on it, there are a number of civil and human rights civil liberties that we all take for granted, that we don't even really think about because we are living in an era where we enjoy a level of freedom that generations before us could hardly ever really imagine. And so, whether you're talking about marriage equality, or you're talking about, the Civil Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act, Voting Rights Act, when you talk some of the legislation around immigration, a government that recognized that seeking asylum was an international human right. So many of these laws have played a huge role in the quality of life we've been able to enjoy, the freedoms that we've been able to enjoy, the peace we've been able to have in our communities, the social and economic mobility that we have had. I'm thinking about the SBA 8A program, which is responsible for creating a whole lot of Black millionaires and other millionaires of color that didn't exist before. And so, Terrence, just connect the dots for us. You are not you're not a drama queen in any sort of way. I find you to be, measured, but unafraid to say the quiet part out loud. And so, on a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate this moment in terms of the level of threat to the most fundamental rights that we all enjoy?
Yeah, and I agree with you that I approach this in a very measured way. But if I had to rate it on a scale from 1 to 10, I would say it's 100. And the reason why I say that is the rule of law itself is in jeopardy in the current environment that we're living in. So, in addition to all of those civil rights laws and decisions that you have cited, we have threats to law firms and their ability to represent clients of their choice. We have threats that are being made against federal judges and whether or not they should be impeached for making decisions that are adverse to the current administration. We have threats to the very structure of what we consider to be the rule of law in the United States. And when we have those types of threats, the entire system is in jeopardy. If the lawyers and the law firms and the judges are not able to conduct their function as they should, no one is safe and nothing is safe. So I think we need to pay very close attention. And I think now more than ever, it's important for lawyers and judges and law firms to be courageous, to uphold the rule of law, not to hide, not to be afraid, but to do everything possible to uphold our system so that it doesn't crumble under the weight of the threats that we've been experiencing over the last few months.
And one of the things I love about having you on the show, Terrence, is that, you help to make it make sense. You connect the dots for us. Your analysis, your legal analysis, your political analysis, I find it sobering, but you're also a man about action. And it's important that we let our leaders, learners, and listeners know that you're going to be going on a listening and engagement tour back home in the San Francisco Bay Area with a number of distinguished leaders from the legal community, folks like John L. Burris, prominent civil rights attorney, folks like Tamara Michael, who's the president of the California Association of Black Lawyers, folks like Vincent L. Brown, the president of the Charles Houston Bar Association. You all are getting together on May 27th from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. At your firm, Dwayne Morris, located at One Market Plaza. Folks can RSVP for the event. It's an opportunity for people to share their story, get involved, make an impact. Talk to us about how this particular engagement came about and what difference leaders, lawyers at the grassroots level are insistent on making at a time like this. I'm going to give you a chance to answer that when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I am just delighted to be talking to the right one, Terrence J. Evans. He's chair of the California Lawyers Association. He's also the Region 9 director of the National Bar Association. talk about leaders fighting on the front lines. That's who we're talking to. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
The audience is listening. Thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams is responding to a Department of Justice probe into Andrew Cuomo over claims he lied to Congress about COVID-era nursing homes.
The investigations must take their course, and I'm not going to do to him what others did to me.
Cuomo, now running for mayor, denies any wrongdoing and calls it lawfare and election interference ahead of next month's primary. A black man, Rodney Hinton Jr., is set to stand trial on January 12, 2026 for allegedly running down and killing Ohio deputy Larry Henderson earlier this month. The incident occurred near the University of Cincinnati just one day after police fatally shot Hinton's 18-year-old son. And nearly 400 books previously removed from the U.S. Naval Academy Library over DEI concerns are being returned. A new review using the Pentagon's standardized search terms found only 20 needed further review and just 2 or 3 warranted removal. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Every day, a child in poverty waits for a sponsor is another day of hopelessness. There are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Just text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Here's another example of how international basketball has caught up to the NBA. When Oklahoma City star Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was voted league MVP Wednesday, it was the 7th straight year the MVP award has gone to an international player. Gilgeous-Alexander was born in Toronto and grew up in the Canadian city. In the previous 6 years, Denver center Nikola Jokic of Slovenia has been MVP 3 times. Milwaukee center Giannis Antetokounmpo of Greece has won it twice. Philadelphia center Joel Embiid, a native of Cameroon, was MVP in 2023. Clippers guard James Harden was the last American-born player to be voted MVP. Harden won the award in 2018. During the Angels' 6-game winning streak, they moved out of last place in the American League West Division. The Angels are 4th in the division, only 5 games behind division leader Seattle. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, yo, come on. Come to
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Dropping it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power. Fight the power.
Nearly 7 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease, also known as AD, a type of dementia that affects memory, thinking, and behavior, making everyday tasks challenging. But did you know that Black adults aged 65 and older are twice as likely as white adults to develop AD? There are things you can do to help reduce your risk for developing AD. Managing conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure is crucial. Staying physically active, maintaining social connections, eating a healthy diet, and keeping your mind engaged with activities like reading or puzzles can all contribute to brain health. It's also important to recognize some common signs and symptoms of early AD, such as forgetfulness that causes problems with everyday life, asking the same question a few times in a row, and difficulty concentrating on basic tasks. If you see these signs in yourself or a loved one, don't wait. Early diagnosis and intervention are key to managing AD effectively. To learn more about AD and a potential treatment option, visit treatallzearly.com. That's treatallzearly.com. This message is brought to you by AZI.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and he is our friend Terrence J. Evans. He's chair of the California Lawyers Association, also Region 9 director of the National Bar Association. Before the break, I mentioned, Terrence, that you are a man about action. You're getting ready to go on tour. Talk to us about how that came together and how our leaders, learners, and listeners can tap in.
Well, thank you so much. The engagement tour is really the brainchild of the current president of the National Bar Association, Wiley Adams, and the incredible team that he has assembled, where he has been going around the country and meeting with leaders in a variety of states and cities, and reconnecting with the Black community and making them aware of the resources that are available to them as we try to navigate these challenging times. And I have the honor of helping to organize and host the West Coast wing, if you will, of that tour. We're going to be beginning in San Francisco at my office on Tuesday, and you've named a number of the great leaders who will be there. The following day, we will be in San Diego connecting with the Earl B. Gilliam Bar Association, which is the Black Bar Association down there in San Diego, along with the California Association of Black Lawyers and folks from the National Bar Association. The following day, we'll be connecting with the John M. Langston Bar Association, Black Women Lawyers of Los Angeles. And then on that Friday, the 30th, we'll be connecting with lawyers from the Arizona Black Bar Association. And so again, we are reconnecting with members of the Black community, civil rights leaders, and we're focusing on our plan going forward. We don't want to simply be reactive, but we want to be proactive and putting a plan together to protect the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act, to protect the rights of LGBTQ people and make sure that we will do everything possible to preserve all of the gains that our foremothers and forefathers have achieved over the past several generations.
I mean, I think that's incredible. One of the things we like to say on this show often is do what you can from where you are with what you have, and you live that. Even in a time such as this, I like to remind people that, forces that are not about the people, they win when we give into this sense of inevitability, right? I think it's Alice Walker who said that the fastest way to give away your power is by first believing you have none. And what I love about the work that you lead and the work that you're a part of is that you remind us that we have power, that we have power to push back and to fight back. There are arguments to be made. There are levers to be pulled, grass tops, grass roots, and everything in between.
Well, thank you for creating a platform and having a platform for these voices to be heard. for us to have these honest and very important discussions about civil rights, diversity, and just our community and what we can do to be stronger and to fight back and not simply allow these things to happen to us, but plan on what we can do to be stronger and forward thinking as we look ahead. So I want to thank you for your leadership on these issues as well, and also KBLA.
Well, thank you. And speaking of, there's no shortage of issues for us to talk about. The New York Times reporting today that the Trump administration says that it's halting Harvard's ability to enroll international students. This is the latest plot twist in this drama between the Trump White House and Harvard University. The Trump administration just today, and let me just point out, it was right after the press briefing today. So we didn't have a chance to raise this during the press briefing. Surprise, surprise. The Trump administration today halted Harvard's ability to enroll international students, taking aim at a crucial funding source for the nation's oldest and wealthiest college in a major escalation of the administration's efforts to pressure the elite school to fall in line with the president's agenda. The administration notified Harvard about the decision, which could affect a quarter of the school student body after this back and forth in recent weeks over the legality of a sprawling records request that's part of the Homeland Security's investigation. Terrence, what do you make of this escalation, as I see it, this escalation in the fight between Trump and Harvard?
I think it's concerning that the current administration has been attacking educational institutions at the highest level. There has been this effort even before the current administration to really restrict access to information, to facilitate miseducation amongst the general population, but amongst students in general. And I think it's unfortunate that the administration is trying to basically put its foot on the neck of Harvard and other academic institutions. I will applaud Harvard for standing up. There have been some institutions that I won't name that have acquiesced in an attempt to win favor from this administration, but Harvard has been bold and courageous. And I believe that ultimately Harvard will be found to be on the right side of history. And I'm hoping that other academic institutions will be equally as courageous and fight back and do everything possible to resist efforts to eliminate their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, to eliminate academic programs focusing on underrepresented and marginalized communities. So I think Harvard is doing the right thing, and I think ultimately the administration will have to be held accountable for what it's doing.
In our remaining minutes, Terrence, if this is what Harvard is up against, I can only imagine what the White House has coming down the pike for our historically Black colleges and universities. Help us read the tea leaves here. Are there any ways in which HBCUs, should be, fortifying their positioning? Is there any way in which HBCUs should be mitigating against the kind of disruption and harm that we're watching take place with Harvard?
Well, Pastor Jamal Bryant gave an incredible sermon a couple of weeks ago about the funding issue as it relates to Harvard. And I thought it was very instructive, where he talked about how he felt bad about what was happening at Harvard and some of the other elite schools with the threats to their funding by the current administration. But he also pointed out that many of the historically Black colleges have never had the opportunity to receive that type of funding from the federal government for their research and for their academic programs. I do think that now is the time for us as a community to embrace our academic institutions, to embrace our businesses, to take our resources and invest it in our community now more than ever before, because what we are seeing is that we're not going to always be able to rely on the federal government to provide support. We may not be able to rely on corporate America to provide that support. But we, the Black community, are one of the wealthiest communities globally in the world. And I think if we find ways to channel our resources into Black-owned businesses, Black academic institutions, that we can withstand some of the headwinds that we're facing now. But it's really going to take a concerted effort for us to invest in our own community instead of simply relying on others to do that for us.
Amen, amen, amen. I oftentimes say that the surest way for us to get to the other side of whatever this is in this moment is in community. And that includes, supporting, Black journalists as well. I'm going to make a plug for Black journalists because there's some people that will break their neck to try and break news, on quote unquote mainstream channels, right? When they have an opportunity to come right here and talk directly to us.
Absolutely. And no place better than this.
That's right. And so we really appreciate you. We appreciate you. We appreciate, all of your work inside and outside of the courtroom. And again, we want to encourage folks to visit you on tour, to join you on tour, and get to know you, get to know some of the other distinguished Black lawyers that are, making a way out of no way. The Listening and Engagement Tour is kicking off in the San Francisco Bay Area from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. on May 27th. Over at the Dwayne Morris office in San Francisco. For more information, people can go to what website, Terrence?
Sure. So they can go to my Instagram page, just #BeardedBlackLawyer, #BeardedBlackLawyer. They can also look at the National Bar Association's event page.
All right, Bearded Black Lawyer, we love to hear it. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Our thanks to Terrence J. Evans. The quiet part out loud when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least like to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Imagine every pregnant person in LA County having the support they deserve. A doula on every block. Doulas provide emotional, physical, and informational support during pregnancy, through labor, and beyond. Medi-Cal now covers doula care. That means you can get the support you need or train to support families in your community. The LA County Medi-Cal Doula Hub is here to help. Learn more and get started today at ladoulahub.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists pathologist on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on autopsy, then click on request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and it is time for the quiet part out loud. Now, earlier in the show, I shared with you that House Republicans passed Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill. You know, the bill that includes major cuts to Medicaid, historic cuts to Medicaid. It includes major changes to the student loan program. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but all the changes that are in it. And the bill passed by one vote. There were two Republicans who voted against it, including Republican Representative Massey from Kentucky. And you better believe Trump is not so happy about that. Today in the White House press briefing room, when asked if the president would likely support a primary challenge against the folks who voted against this bill, folks like Congressman Massey, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said, yep, the president would support it. And he's got 600 million reasons why. Let me explain. The Associated Press is reporting that Trump's $600 million war chest, they're reporting on that and how he plans to wield his power in the midterms and beyond. Between a barrage of executive orders, foreign trips, and norm-shattering proclamations, Donald Trump has also been busy raking in the cash. The president has amassed this war chest of at least $600 million in political donations heading into the midterm election. That's according to three people familiar with the matter. It is an unprecedented sum in modern politics. Unprecedented, particularly for a lame duck president who's barred by the U.S. Constitution from running again. Trump is keeping an aggressive fundraising schedule with the ultimate goal of raising $1 billion or more to back his agenda and hold the House and Senate next November. That's according to people who've spoken out on conditions of anonymity. The preoccupation with fundraising might seem highly unusual for a president who was notably averse to dialing for dollars when he first ran, but according to people familiar with his thinking, it makes perfect sense. By amassing money, Trump amasses power. Trump is eager to reverse the tide of Democrats routinely outraising GOP candidates and want to maximize his own impact as president. Any money left over after his term could help him maintain enormous influence over the Republican Party, cementing his status as its most influential kingmaker and potential patron through 2028 and beyond. Why should you pay attention to this? Well, the Democrats seem to be preoccupied with President Biden and revisiting, his mental fitness as president, his cognitive abilities. Democrats don't seem to be able to get outside of that circular firing squad, if you will, trying to pin it on somebody, trying to pin that 2024 election loss on somebody. And a lot of folks are looking squarely at Biden. The more Democrats talk about Biden, the more that Democrats, look through their DNC rule book, forcing duly elected DNC members have to run for re-election. All of this is distraction. All of this is distracting from what people are really hungry for is, what are Democrats going to do to make their life better? What's going to do to make their life better? Not win the next election, not become the next speaker, not raise the most money, not become the next chair of a hotshot committee in the House of Representatives. But what are you going to do to make their lives better? If Democrats are looking to strike a contrast between a sitting president with a $600 million political slush fund and a Republican Party that firmly has its grip on power, maybe that contrast is speaking more squarely, more bluntly about what you are going to do to make people's lives better. Just a thought. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. In our next hour, you can expect to get an update on the Diddy trial. This is week 2 of the Diddy trial. I talked to Ashley Banfield, the host of Banfield on News Nation, all about it. You'll hear her hot take on what took place this week, what's worth noting. And then a little bit later, you will hear from Justin Knighton, former associate FEMA administrator, with a warning as we're heading into a period where severe weather is expected. It's hurricane season, tornadoes, all sorts of things. Here with this former associate FEMA administrator, hear the warning that he has for all of us. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams is responding to a Department of Justice probe into Andrew Cuomo over claims he lied to Congress about COVID-era nursing homes.
The investigations must take their course, and I'm not going to do to him what others did to me.
Cuomo, now running for mayor, denies any wrongdoing and calls it